Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Based Mother Show. I'm Elena Barbera. I'll be your host today. I have a fun show planned for today. We're going to talk about New Jersey. The state's been working overtime to strip parents of their God-given and constitutional rights to direct the upbringing of their children. That includes a kid's education, their health, their mental health, and religious and moral foundations. Laws that make it impossible to remove sexually explicit books from schools. That's what's going on in New Jersey. Laws that allow kids to get mental health care without parental knowledge. Official recommendations that encourage teachers to keep a kid's identity secret. Doesn't end. Add to it crushing taxes and exorbitant energy rates, and soon the state will be uninhabitable for families. Today, I have Constance Ditzel with me. She's running for state assembly in District 5 because she's had enough. She's got a lot to say about all of these things. Let's bring her in. Constance, welcome.
Hello, Elena.
So happy to have you here. So, I before we get into the issues, because New Jersey, like many states, has a lot of issues right now that are really crushing Americans. What made you want to run? Because if correct me if I'm wrong, this is your first time running for office. Is that right?
It is indeed. Well, what made me want to run, I have a background in textbook publishing, actually, and I'm somewhat familiar with curriculum development. And I moved back to New Jersey after being in New York for a little while, but I did raise my children here. And I wanted to see what was going on because I'd heard things that just didn't seem right. So I started going to some school board meetings, and sure enough, what I heard was true. And I was really shocked at not just the state of education with our scores just getting lower and lower, but shocked that parents are slowly being inched out of the picture. It's like chipping away at parental rights. It's not all at one time. It's here, it's there, and then there's a bill next week. And then all of a sudden you look at this and you see that there was a path all along. So after I started finding out, going up to Trenton and testifying on certain things that concerned me, I decided I couldn't unknow what I know. And the only solution, not really a solution, but to call attention to things that are going on. And so I jumped in the race and I'm on the ballot for November.
Well, thank you and congratulations.
I hope so.
I know, I hope so too. I'd like to start with this issue of parental rights that unfortunately isn't the kitchen table conversation that it needs to be. Not yet. You, me, there are probably, I feel small to me. It feels like there's several hundred people in the country fighting for this, when I know it's a little bit bigger than that. And I think that this is an issue that is working its way to the forefront, but, it does unfortunately take a backseat to taxes and, economic concerns, for people, but it should be at the forefront because parents' ability to guide their children's upbringing is being overrun by the government in every possible way, in our schools, in our libraries, and even they're trying even in homeschool situations. Mm-hmm. So on your platform, I noticed that you had something about, developing a parental rights bill in New Jersey. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on what that would look like.
Well, one of the things I can tell you is I can say right off the bat that Jack Ciattarelli endorses a parental bill of rights. So that language I pulled from him, he put it in, he put a label on what I was trying to achieve, a parental bill of rights. K through 12, minor children should still be under the direction of their parents. My first tip off to this was when I heard about this policy where the school can withhold a confidential file from parents if their child is starting to social transition in school, their gender. And as long as the child says, "Don't tell my parents," then they'll say, "Okay, we won't." And counselors know, the principal knows, everybody knows, at least all the people who are running the school know, but not the parents. And this can go on for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. They can have a different name. It's a confidential file. This is appalling.
It's sick. That's sick. I'm sorry. That's just downright demonic.
And this could lead to a major decision in a child's life. A social transition can happen in school. To this point, the medical can't, but they've got a child on a track where this is what they want to do. They may want to start puberty blockers, which from that point on, you cannot bear children. So a major decision like this, I mean, you have to sign a field trip signature for a kid to go on a field trip. Major decisions like this should never, ever, ever be withheld from parents. They're afraid of the parent out there who is not so kind and who might be abusive, but they've got all kinds of controls going on for parents, all kinds of report-ins for parents. But it's like they're assumed, the worst is assumed rather than the better. And the greater number of parents are good, loving parents. They want the best for their kids. So this led me to going to Trenton to kind of learn more about how some of these policies were being dealt with. So that was the tip off. So
what did you learn? So now out here, you got 1 foot in each side now, right? Like you're just a regular citizen like me who wants to know, what are they doing to us from up on the hill, right? What did you learn?
Well, the first thing was rather obvious, but a lot of people don't know this, but New Jersey has been under Democrat solid rule, House and Senate, for a full 20 years. So the decisions are being made by our state government, the Democrat side, namely. And I know Republicans have put bills forth. They don't get very far in their votes. They don't get very far when bills are voted on. So I quickly learned that it was very, very hard if you were sitting on the other side to get anywhere. Secondly, go on.
No, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Secondly, I went to Trenton to learn a little bit more of this freedom to read, which is a peculiar name. It's really freedom to read what? Freedom to read what? There are books that can be stocked in our libraries that go against New Jersey's obscenity penal code, I should say. And the obscenity penal code in New Jersey is from 2022. It's not from Plymouth time. It's not from the Mayflower. It's an up-to-date bill that if you got caught in the park sharing this information with a child on a park bench, you could be hauled in.
Yes.
So it's some of these books are pretty strident, and yet New Jersey parents are very accepting, very accommodating. But they took it just a step too far, and they want to put this in school libraries.
Well, not that they want to put it in school libraries. It's already there. Already there. You can go to an organization called takebacktheclassroom.com and you can look up New Jersey and the districts, and every district has not yet been searched and published, but a lot of New Jersey's districts are, and you will find some of the most sexually explicit erotica smut that you can imagine right at children's fingertips. If I just may, because this is my place here. New Jersey, up until a few years ago, was one of only a handful of states that did not have an obscenity exemption statute. So every state, again, like you said, you can't show this stuff to a kid in a playground. A lot of states, most of them, had an OES, which made it where you can't show it to them in the playground, but if you show it to them in a school, you will not be criminally prosecuted. New Jersey didn't. New Jersey did not. Yeah, basically qualified immunity. So New Jersey didn't have that. And they put it in, and they took it further with the Freedom to Read Act, which is basically a ban on book bans. And that is a law that has been rubber stamped around the country by the ALA, the ACLU. They're all working in cahoots to get these laws passed. They're working on Massachusetts right now as we speak to get a similar law passed. But it is unconstitutional. I'm sure I'm telling this for the benefit of the audience. I'm sure you already know this, Constance. In 1982, there was a Supreme Court decision called Island Trees School District versus PICO. And the bottom line of that is that a school board has the right to remove sexually explicit content from the school. And what this Freedom to Read Act does is takes that authority away. It's unconstitutional and it should be overthrown. But, we're in so many fights, and then there's only so many of us that can fight. So is your hope that if, my understanding, I talked to Pete Sykes yesterday, that we got to get Chitterelli. Chitterelli's got to be elected, and he needs to flip 13 assembly seats in order to get a majority, flip them red. If we get that done, do you think we can undo this Freedom to Read Act, which is just basically like shoving porn in kids' faces?
Quite possibly, quite possibly. You're correct that the bills are often developed with the ALA in Chicago, and then the language is just passed down to the state, and they more or less adopt it. And to be fair, there are some very, very good librarians out there. This is not a stroke on the librarians, but what concerns me is they say that these books are age appropriate, and they're very carefully, they're degreed, they have graduate degrees, and they select books that are age appropriate. But yet, if you look at this New Jersey standards of testing, you'll find that the number of developmentally challenged children in all of our school districts is between 18 and 19%.
Wow.
So right away, your age appropriate flies out the window. So, and plus, age appropriate to you might be different than age appropriate to me, the parent.
Plus decades of science. Decades of science that show us that children are not ready for sexually explicit content. Plus the obscenity laws that you mentioned, the criminal obscenity laws that establish that they're not ready for it. I mean, it's just all lies. I want to post to you, if you're not familiar with it, to look it up afterwards, because to play the game of let's just take the strongest language we can and impose it on, where we want it. Yeah. Back in just last year, July of 2024, the Tennessee legislature passed Senate Bill 2749, and it was lauded at the time as the strongest parental rights bill in the country. And so I say to you, take that and let's get her done in New Jersey, right? And if you get elected, I'm going to call you because I got your number, and I'm going to say, can we 2749 New Jersey today and get these kids protected? I think what your knowledge on this is excellent, and I really hope. How is it when you talk to people about this issue? Is it resonating? Are they hearing you?
It is. To tell you the truth, this was a much talked about issue in the fall and into December when New Jersey passed the freedom to read. So it's a fait accompli here in the state. I wrote down the bill number. By all means, we want to look. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can look at other bills and see how we might bring something forward. We're talking about so many other things now that are just pertaining, like that's just the tip of the iceberg. For example, may I go on with parental issues just for a minute? Parents?
Sure.
For example, there is a bill that came up, I don't think it's been approved yet, where they want to lower the age for behavioral health consent from 16 to 14. So a child can essentially consent to mental health counseling in school without their parent knowing. That means the whole high school, because you're starting at age 14, can have counseling in school and their parents not knowing.
That's sick.
So shouldn't I be involved in that? So there's that. There's the suicide hotline thing where they looked at a bill. I don't know if this was passed or not, but where if a child calls a suicide hotline, they don't necessarily have to notify the parents and let them know if there's a callback.
All right. So if there's a child, just sorry to interrupt, who this is making me crazy, who is considering killing themselves, there's no requirement to let the parents know. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes. If the child says, don't tell my mom, don't tell my mom, don't tell my dad, then they don't. Now, I kind of see where they were trying to go with it. But at the same time, how many times did you say to your best friend, don't tell my mom, don't tell my dad, even with the most mundane and the most outrageous things? You always tell a parent with something that large. Always. Unless there's reason, unless that parent has some record with the state that shows that they truly are unfit, then I'll give you that. But
then that's a different story. Then that's still a different story. That
correct.
Then God forbid this child is telling the suicide hotline, I want to kill myself because I'm being sexually, physically abused. Then there should be an intervention.
That needs research.
That parent still needs to find out about it because, hey, we heard you're doing this. Is this happening? So no matter what, the parent needs to know. That's just. Now, I'll look it up and we'll see how far along that is in the legislative process and whether or not it's passed yet. But they do move fast on this dark stuff, and they wrap it up in other news. So parents don't know about it.
In New Jersey, a parent is presumed guilty before innocence rather than vice versa. You know what I mean? They presume the worst before the best. And that's what concerns me. These things are moving along. And yes, they happen quickly. We try to go up to Trenton so we can get our voice heard or at least tweak the bill so it's a little bit more in the favor. but it is difficult. So once I started looking at these things, I started looking at other things. The budget, women supporting women, the Title IX, fairness in women's sports.
Yeah.
This is interesting. On the last day of assembly this year, before they closed for session, they wanted to pull out of committee a fairness in women's sports bill to have it voted on. They wanted to pull it out of committee. And you may know there are 26 or several other states who are passing safety in women's sports bills. So they wanted to pull this out of committee to vote on it. They kept it in committee. They wanted to keep it in session, which won't be back until after Thanksgiving. And instead, what they voted on was a advisory for pregnant persons that if they're traveling, they want to know which state they can go to for reproductive care. So so rather than saving women's sports, that was tabled, and this was brought up, some kind of a travel advisory. Now, I haven't found the website yet, but just the amazing priority. The priority there was just, to me, astounding.
Yeah, well, this is why Democrats are losing voters by the millions around the country. Yeah. And these numbers are coming out that the party is plummeting into the abyss, but they still, unfortunately, do have an awful lot of power in places that are ruining lives. So, all of this is wrapped up largely in education. Parental rights are under attack in other areas, like in medicine, and even in homeschooling. But let's just focus on the schools for a second. They're failing. Now, you are somebody who worked on curriculum for decades, my understanding is.
I was a very, very long time now. Admittedly, I was in the college curriculum. I was with college textbooks, but that led me to understand curriculum, how books are developed.
Yeah,
I would love to see, here's a challenge for New Jersey. I would like them to, when Jack Chitterelli gets in, I'd like to be someone who helped with curriculum development, so that it's a more balanced curriculum. So if you want to teach some political ideology on the left, then you got to teach on the right too. You have to have both points of view.
Yeah.
You just can't preach one side and not the other. And that is the purpose of a good textbook, where you incorporate all points of view, you have them reviewed, you have them developed. You could develop a specific book for the state of New Jersey if you wanted, that incorporated all the different cultural entities and bring them into history where they come in. It could be done. It could be balanced. It doesn't have to be so one-sided in our state. We need a balanced curriculum.
Absolutely.
And on top of that, these children are burdened with so many layers of curriculum that the basic skills are being abandoned. The basic skills, particularly math, is abysmal. And I'm being generous with my district, LD5. Not more than 30% are passing the math assessment in Jersey. And that's in some of the better schools in my district. Camden is like 10%.
I'm sorry, Camden is at what?
Camden is at probably 10%.
Jeez. The problem with other blue states is what they do is they just end up making the test easier to make the numbers look better. And
that was done too. That was already done.
So even with that, we still have these numbers. Thanks for that. That's just wonderful concept.
Yeah, that was done around the COVID time. I admittedly there were challenges with this online learning. So the answer was I like to use the expression, but for lack of a better one, everyone understands, it kind of dumbed down the test. And even at that, you're seeing 25% passing the math assessment in your standard suburban schools.
Well, reading and writing are no better. I think you're 52, according to your website. I think that's where I got it. 52% are reaching or exceeding language arts per the assessment scores. You're still beating the national average, which is under 40%. So, bravo at 50%. You're the top of the heap. I mean, what are we doing to our kids? A lot of this, I think, has been the removal of phonics. And we've seen this decline is not because of the COVID delay. Mm-hmm. It is not. These numbers existed long before COVID. Mm-hmm. Everyone says, COVID set our kids back. No. Stop deflecting. Mm-hmm. This is what I tell all these educators. And you're running for office and you have to be more careful. I am frustrated with good teachers who never spoke up. and because they're bullied by the unions, I understand you got to pay the bills. You go along to get along. But I am frustrated by those teachers and librarians who haven't spoken up and said, we need phonics. We need to focus, on this. And so
they get lost in the shuffle. They don't get to develop the curriculum. They just follow it.
They just follow it. So what do you say about that? Like, how do we change? How do we make kids able to read again?
I don't have a quick answer there, but I would say,
I'll tell you, I think it's phonics. I think it's
more
just getting
and
back
more
to basics.
drilling, unlayer some of the other topics. We were the second state in the country to have a gender identity curriculum. It's called comprehensive sex education. So you're taught from kindergarten onward, that there are several choices for your sexuality, several, and that starts in kindergarten. We're the second state of the union that developed that curriculum. So you're layering on these other things that are distracting them from the basic skills, you see. Maybe you need a second math class in the day. Maybe it needs to be more stringent or longer course. I don't know. But these other things are taking over the curriculum and giving a lot of emphasis.
Oh, yeah. No, they're just wasting time on them. Here's something that I'm going to put on your plate, too, because I'm just giving you my wish list. And then we're going to move on to taxes and other things that New Jersey voters want to hear from you on. But as you know, a couple months ago, the decision came down from the Supreme Court in Mahmoud versus Taylor, in which the Supreme Court said that parents have a right to exercise their religious rights and opt their children out of any course that has gender ideology in it. And the problem was, or any thing of any sexual nature or anything that offends their religious sensibilities. And the problem with this gender stuff, what they've done is, it used to be like anything sexual was in health. So you could just opt out of one class. Now they put it in math, they put it in literature, they put it in history, they put it in everything. Most parents don't realize that they even have an opt-out option. I never knew that. I put my kid through 12 years of school, never knew I could have opted him out. That is something that I ask you and other legislators to start informing parents on, because if parents all start opting out, we're just opting out of everything. Like seriously, that's how you do it. That's how we're going to win the sports thing. We're just going to sit out. Go ahead, play by yourself.
It is an important first step. You're right. Many parents don't know that. And even though the teaching is pervasive in other subjects, the first step is to at least opt out of the most obvious one. And you're right, parents do not know that. So on this Parent Bill of Rights that our governor will assemble, that will definitely be in there, the opt-out option. It's a shame, though, that we should have to opt out of these courses. It costs about $27,000 per student to educate a child in New Jersey school. That's an average. Did you know that?
I'm glad you brought up the money, because that's a lot of money to educate kids who can't read.
And to opt out of, and then I'm opting out.
Well, you're better off opting out.
Yes, I know.
The kids anyway, right?
Yeah.
So, but let's talk about those costs for services that are what I'm going to insult and say bottom of the barrel. Not bottom of the barrel, though, because again, you're beating the national average of failing kids who can't read. So it's frustrating. I don't live in New Jersey anymore. I have lived in New Jersey, but it's frustrating because I still contribute through federal tax dollars to the state of New Jersey. And so that is why I care so much about every single state in this nation and every child. I don't have to live there to care and be interested.
This is a good link to education, because in New Jersey, we are the second highest state for property taxes. We were always led to believe that all of our money was going to the school budget. So we are contributing. So if we should have some of the best education, and we're paying top of the line in property taxes. We are number 1 in the country for corporate taxes. We are number 3 in the country for income taxes. We're in the upper 50% for sales tax. We are a heavily taxed state. And therefore, one should expect the best, shouldn't one?
That's what I'm saying. You're being more articulate. Yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. I'm getting mad. You're so cool. You're good. You're going to be a great politician. I'm over here screaming already, and you're so chill. I love that. I'm going to give you your due on that. So what do you see happening in the future to give people relief on taxes and better services. How do we make that happen?
I think the first thing we need to do is trim the pork. The budget is, like I said, out of control. It has grown 45% in 5 years.
Wow.
Murphy added, I think, 20 billion on since he's been in office. And the numbers are staggering. So the budget keeps climbing, and yet we're outspending. Our spending outpaces revenue. And guess who's going to pick up the slack on revenue?
Yeah.
The taxpayer.
The taxpayer.
So that jumps into several categories. And there's two biggies that are related there, if I might jump to that, because it's all related on why everything costs so darn much. In fact, some schools had their budgets cut, their school district budgets cut after they've been told all these years that your tax dollars are going for your education. Well, boom, they pull the rug out from under you, and the budgets were cut for schools. So we have some really large issues. We have our energy issue, and this was kind of a thing that was sweeping along to invest in other sources, namely wind, green energy. And so they shut down nuclear plants or never activated them, one of the two. They shut down natural gas, was largely New Jersey. And they have one or two still running. But then they shut them down before they ever got their wind farms up running. So suddenly we're importing energy from other states and paying the gamut for it. Mikey Sherrill posts, oh, PJM is charging us so much for energy. Well, we shouldn't have been this pickle. This was poor decision-making.
Right.
To shut down and invest billions, and I'm telling you, multi-billions. And then a company, Ørsted, went belly up. They had a $125 million settlement. Okay, did that money come back to the taxpayer? No. Now, on the books related to this, there's a bill, I think Assembly 5255. It's coming up. And what this will do is it will layer the middle class and higher with these higher rates. You're considered rich in New Jersey in this particular instance if you earn more than 60,000 as a single.
60,000.
60,000. You're considered middle class and to pay these higher rates. If you earn more than 82.5 as a couple, or if you earn more than 125,000 as a family, and that's based on the federal poverty equation they have in the end of 2024. So you're rich. So you're now going to pay the energy debacle that was caused by this administration. So once again, it's shifting things to the middle class. It's a big whopping chunk of change.
Destroying your middle class.
Your jaw's still dropping.
I'm like $60,000 in one of the most expensive states. I'm just stuck on that. One of the most expensive states in the country. I mean, you can't rent a one-bedroom apartment in a mediocre neighborhood for less than, I believe, like $1,800. I mean, and I may be off by a little bit there, but I'm not off by much. Just, knowing people there and talking to them. How are you? And then you're going to be taxed more heavily for your privilege of earning $60,000, which is basically pretty much almost an entry level salary at this point. And if you work in Manhattan, now you're paying taxes to two states, and you're spending several $100s a week just to commute. Yeah. I mean, there's no way you can even have your own one-bedroom apartment. You're living in a roommate situation or your mother's basement, which okay, fine. But to have the state look at you and say that you're the privileged class and you should pay more is a real kick in the teeth. Yeah, and getting into this debacle in the first place, I mean, that was very, very poor planning to shut down these other things before something was up and running, which people don't want anyway. They don't want the wind farms out in the 9 miles off our shoreline anyway. Whole nother topic. But we're just talking right now about the sheer multi-billions invested. But where's the money? Yeah. Where's the money? Where's the results for the people? All magically disappeared. We're just going to not talk about it pretty much. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I have one more topic. They're all related. Yeah, they are. When we're when we're talking about money, I would like to ask you, based on your talking to people inside and outside of your circle, because we We all just do love to hang in our echo
Mhm.
chambers. Try not to, though. I
Mhm.
imagine as a politician, you have to step out of yours a lot.
Mhm.
Illegal immigration. What is
Mm.
the public sentiment in New Jersey around that right now?
Well, I've seen a lot of, I've seen these parades and marches down the street, and I'm going to, at the best, I think a lot of people just don't understand how much the safety issue, that they're starting to keep record of some of the assaults, the battery, the drug influx.
Yep.
But just from a sheer money standpoint, that what they are fighting for is to get this number. This is an estimated 7 billion more per year to sustain illegal immigrants. We have about 1 million illegal immigrants in New Jersey. That's an estimate out of April 2024, close to 900,000.
You said 1 million illegal?
Illegal. That's about 12%, 10 to 12% of the population. So what that means is that, I've got some fun facts here. They're actually not so fun. But that means 900 to 925 million just in K through 12 education for them. That means 30 million in 2023 in checks were given away. Housing services in 2023, 2.3 million. 34 million in hospital care in 2022. And then illegal defense. For their defense, we're paying for that. 624 million in public safety. And it comes like to a fun 7.3 billion a year. Now, if people who are for this, if you really, really want, I'm talking to you, Democrats and independents who want to do this. If you really, really want to add 7.3 billion to our budget a year, then know what you're doing. Yeah. This is what you're doing. And you can't at the same time complain about your school budget being cut, because we're going to add 925 million a year for those children. It's not a matter of whether some of these are good people. This is not a conversation about that. This is a directive that Governor Murphy did in 2018. It was not voted on. Talk about a democracy. This is Immigrant Trust Directive in 2018, where he made clear he was not going to cooperate with legal enforcement authorities that would include ICE. So that was an invitation to come to New Jersey. I don't remember voting on that. I don't remember seeing that in legislature. This is a Murphy directive. Here we are. If you want to march in the street and you want to say we should pay for this, and I'm representing you, if you really want to pay for it, I'll stick up for you, because I'm your representative. But I don't believe you do. I don't really believe you do.
Yeah, I don't believe they do. What about that mother and daughter who were killed in the past? I think it was 2-3 weeks ago in New Jersey. They jumped in the car with another little girl, the daughter's friend, 2 11-year-old girls and the mother, jumped in the car to go to Wawa for milkshakes, and an illegal alien who was drunk 3 times over the legal limit. They later found out, crashed into them and killed the mother and the daughter on the spot. That's not a unique situation. That's happening all over the country. Is that getting airtime? I mean, I'm looking for those stories. Is anyone in New Jersey? Are the general, we know that the legislature doesn't care. But
mainstream media won't share that.
Like, why isn't every family in New Jersey at the kitchen table saying, this is not okay? And here I am. I'm down in Florida. I know about it. I know people in New Jersey don't know about it. You are fighting an uphill battle. And I just dig it. I thank you for doing this. And those statistics you just rattled off are really, really disturbing, and should disturb every New Jersey resident.
I encourage anyone, and those aren't figures I made up. You can check my sources. There's a report called Save New Jersey that was put together by one of our assemblymen, Save New Jersey. And it seems like it's very rationally put together. You can look at how he arrived at his figures. And this was put together in April of 2024. And my jaw was dropping just running through it. And then he has a link there of some of the reported felons and things that have happened from a criminal stance. So we're talking about safety. We're talking about expense. We're talking about a decision made by our governor that was not voted on, that I'm aware of. I will qualify that I'm aware of. And there are people that don't realize that the Democrats have been in rule for 20 years in our House and Senate. So people like me who may have voted against something would be outnumbered.
Yes.
So my hope is that for any of us that get in, being realistic, it is going to be tough. It is uphill. This is an uphill battle. At least we need to call attention to what's going on. An old friend of mine said, oh, I'm not going to vote for Jack Ciattarelli because when he was in assembly, he didn't do anything. And we needed him to do some things for New Jersey. So I look and I see that he was in assembly during this 20-year period when the Democrats were ruling. And I thought, what would you have him do? You voted the people he was up against. Don't you realize that you're voting for the people that are, quote, doing things you don't want to do? I'm baffled by that. A lot of people don't realize this.
Right.
It's been a solid, I'm not saying some good bills and some good decisions haven't come out. I'm sure there have been, but it's overwhelmingly us versus them.
Yeah. And I think Republicans, from where I sit on the state level, have a communication problem. We really do. Like, even if your stuff is being shut down, people need to know, hey, this is what we're doing. This is what we're fighting for, and I don't see a lot of really solid communication coming out of the party on this level. And so I also, there's just one more thing I'm just going to request of you is that when you get in there, really, really find the people that are the communicators for the party and put the screws to them and say, we got to let the people know what we're trying to do here so we can get them involved and get some support. And at a minimum, even if we lose every time, they know we're fighting. So that when they're running for governor, they say, hey, they outnumbered him, but he kept fighting, because Jack Ciattarelli should be getting credit for what he did do, and that sentiment is frustrating when you've worked for years and then somebody says you didn't do anything. It's like,
Republicans, conservatives, MAGA, call it what you will. We're not all perfectly united, but we should be united on some things. And unfortunately, they become tired. They have become tired, but there is an energy drumming up right now. There's an energy in this state, and people, especially on the affordability issue, it's just, your public utility bills come in. People are seeing it already. Our tax bills. An Audubon, a friend of mine, his taxes went up $1,000 in a year. Why was that?
Yeah.
And it's not like their school district was getting more money. So it's like, it's right in your face. It's right in your face. So folks, look at those bills, think 2 steps further. And, there's some of us who really want to work for you, do what you want, but be informed.
Yeah, well, we're trying to hit people over the head and say, get involved in, but more and more people are. I have political conversations these days with people who used to say things to me, things like, politics doesn't affect me, until it did. And then they came around and they were like, hey, I have a question. And now we're talking. And so more and more that's happening. You're going to get your wish. People are going to get involved, and hopefully to the point where it drives us all crazy. Let's get involved.
And a plug for Jack. Jack Ciattarelli is a terrific candidate. He's been in assembly. He's been at this race before. He's not so, he's a great moderate. He's a great candidate. He can honor a lot of sides of the aisle, I believe. I really, really hope people will realize that and vote down ticket. You've got people he's going to need the assembly people once he's in, because it's not like he can do everything with an executive order.
Right.
So he needs me. He needs Pete Sykes. He needs everybody who's running in New Jersey to come in with him.
Well, we're going to do what we can out here to spread the word. And while we're plugging, where can we find more information about you?
I do have a X account, and here I'm using Connie at Connie for NJ, and the 4 is the number 4. Our Facebook, our Facebook page is Ditzel and Gonzalez. A lot of Z's there, Ditzel and Gonzalez. And our website is Ditzel and Gonzalez 4LD5. And those are numbers. I'm sorry. Ditzel and Gonzalez spelled out 4, FORLD5. And the 5 is a numeral. It's not the kindest website address.
I know. But if you're watching on Rumble or YouTube, the website address is in the description.
Oh, great.
So you'll be able to click on it easily. Yes. So, all right, Constance, this has really been a pleasure. I could talk to you all day. I think it's easy when we agree, right? But
you know stuff. You knew all this freedom to read. Thank you. You had all that at the tip of your tongue. I'm glad about that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, if I can help talk to your constituents about that stuff, you want another voice. I produced a film called American Groomer about the sexualization of children in our schools. And since I produced the film, I've learned so much more, because the fight is it isn't a battle, it's a war on our kids. So I do know about that. And again, if you ever want me to, zoom in and talk to people and fire them up on that one, I'm in.
Okay.
You can call me. You have my number. And thank you so much for coming. And if you want to come back before Election Day, let's do it. And
thank you. I'd be honored.
Keep me posted also if there's any news, anything that you want to get out there, even if we don't do it this way, I can try to put it out too. And I'm going to be watching. I'm going to be paying attention.
Thank you, Elaine. It was a pleasure.
Thank you, Constance.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right. That was a lot of fun. Wow. This is 2 days in a row that we're talking to New Jersey State Assembly candidates. We have to get 13 seats flipped red in New Jersey to save the state, along with getting Jack Ciattarelli in as governor. Then the state has a chance, because it's going down just this liberal runaway train track. And it doesn't have the national attention that other states do. Like it should be like Phil Murphy should be getting the Gavin Newsom treatment in the media, but he's not. He's still flying under the radar. We got to let everybody know how bad things are for our fellow countrymen in New Jersey. Tomorrow at 6 or 7 p.m., I think. 6 or 7 p.m. I don't know. I'll let you know tomorrow. I am going to be speaking with John Myrick, who is running for the governor seat in Maryland against to replace Wes Moore, who's the current governor, who is also a liberal disaster, who deserves the Gavin Newsom treatment. Actually, he's been getting it from President Trump lately, so good job there. But John Myrick tomorrow. Thank you for coming. Thank you for watching. God bless you. God bless America.